Hey everybody, Asobs here with Champion NFT Gaming. Today I want to talk to you about scholarship profitability, scholarship ROI, dive into some numbers that other people just don't talk about, and give you the real honest outlook of what you can earn investing in scholarships right now in Axie, as well as at different SLP price points. So let's get right into it, guys. The first thing I want to mention is that this thing's going to go a lot more in depth than what other people do. Okay, a lot of other people, they do a very simplistic, take your earnings per day, divide out your initial team cost, and that's how many days to ROI. They'll tell you 220 days, 250 days, things like that. But that's a very simplistic, back of the napkin way to look at it. So what we got right here is a very detailed way to dive into it. Okay, so we got a couple different sheets. We have SLP at 2 cents. You can see that up here in this top left corner. And then we got one that's at 3.5, one at 6, and one at 10 cents. So I'm just going to explain the format of these sheets, and then we'll show you the different scenarios. So basically what I did is I took the team cost right now, which is about, you can get a really solid team for 600 to 750. I went on the high end to give you guys a conservative ROI and earning estimate, because some of these other ones, again, they get a little bit generous. They say, oh, you can earn 300 SLP a day with the floor team or stuff like that. And it's not realistic to earn 300 SLP a day with a floor team. Okay, so we took a really conservative number here, trying to be as realistic as possible. Right here, we're saying in the first week when you're recruiting a new scholar, they're only going to earn 75, and that's because they got to level up their Axies. They got to do a lot of that kind of stuff. Level up, get familiar, all that. So they're not earning very much SLP, 75 SLP a day in the first week. So they're not earning much during that first week. Then as we switch into the second week and forward, they should be able to hit, if you're buying a good team at $750 price point, with some training provided, that kind of stuff, you should be able to hit 150 SLP a day on average pretty reasonably. Okay, I have right now that's pretty close to my average. I have some people that are just absolutely killing it, doing way better, some that are doing a little bit worse. So but you should be able to average out about that 150 SLP a day per scholar. We have a 50% reward split. Just really simple. I don't cast judgment on your reward split as long as you can make an argument, but that's it. I just put 50% because it makes things a lot easier to go over, double check for myself just to make sure this was all accurate. So we're going to assume a 50% reward split. So 50% of earnings go to you, 50% to the scholar. And what we did here is we said you start out with 10 teams. That just makes the compounding effect easier to show for you guys as to what the compounding effect. I know, like myself right now, I'm at 93 teams. I understand a lot of people aren't going to be starting out that. And heck, I started out with 5 teams and grew over months. So you guys will all start at different points, but this just helps you highlight the effect of the compounding. So basically what we're doing here is once a month, when you're doing, let's say you do a cash out on the first of the month, right? Once a month, you'd be able to reinvest that SLP you're cashing out and buy new teams. And that's basically what we're showing here as we go down this column, is how many teams at the first of every month are you buying. So you can see first month, you don't have enough cash coming in from your scholars to buy any new teams, but the second month, you've actually accrued enough to buy another team and increase your SLP earnings. We keep going down, and you can see this trend continues, and we've showed a whole year here of earnings. And over here on the right, this is the Axie value at sale. So this is, let's say at any point in here, you could choose to sell. Week 22 you want to sell, here's roughly what you could get back out of it. And this is assuming that your Axies have lost 30% of value. That's very possible, because something like a balance change or something like that could definitely cause you to lose 30% of value. I know a lot of my AAP teams did that. They lost a lot of value when there was a balance change, and that's just the reality of the game. Is the metas will change, whether it's an official Axie balance change, metas changing, whatever it is, over a course of a year, you're not going to keep your value in your Axies. It's just not realistic to happen. So to account for that, we said every Axie that you paid for is going to be worth 70% or 30% less than what you bought it for. And we show that as we keep going down here. And this is the total value. So SLP goes to 2 cents. Let's just say you consistently are doing 2 cents, which again is not the most realistic. However, modeling different SLP price fluctuations over the course of a year would make this way more complicated. And I feel like it's already pretty in depth as is. So let's just say on average, you sold at SLP of 2 cents. So lower than we are right now. I think right now we're sitting at about 3.2 cents. At the end of 10 years, your total value would be $10,500. You initially put in $7,500, so your ROI on the year would be 40%. And that's important to note here. And then now hopefully you have a good understanding of how this works, and we're just going to look through a couple different ones. So now we have SLP at 3.5 cents, a little bit closer to where we are right now. Again, very similar thing here. We're showing as you go down, this green is not supposed to be here, so I apologize for that, so ignore that for right now. I'll just delete that. And you can see every month as we go down, you keep buying new teams. Again, similar thing. Since you do have SLP worth more, you're able to start buying more and more teams as you go. And as we scroll all the way down here to the end of the year, you can see we have 29 teams. So we started up here with 10. If we keep reinvesting, we're able to end with 29. If you compare that with SLP at 2 cents, you only got up to 19 teams. So you definitely get, or sorry, this one ends at 31, the other one's at 19. So you definitely get more teams because SLP is worth more, you're able to buy more teams. Hopefully that makes sense. Trying to be as straightforward as possible again. Team cost is the same, daily rewards are the same, splits the same. That's all going to be the same as we keep looking. You can see now the total value, and this is taking in the total value of the Axies plus the dollar amount that was left over, because you had $600 here where you couldn't go buy another team, but you had $600 worth of SLP. You add those two together, and then you're able to determine that at the end, your total value is $16,887, which results in an ROI for the year of about 125%, which is really amazing. I mean, honestly, and I know a lot of people might not like this, but even if SLP goes to 2 cents, a 40% ROI is a lot better than you can get in other investments. And yeah, it does take time and effort, but if you get some of these efficient scaling things I'm going to talk about in future videos, it still makes sense in my opinion. And I'm still buying teams. I'm still going to keep buying teams as SLP is staying low. I don't see it as an issue long term. Right here, we changed to SLP at 6 cents. This is kind of where I think when they release Land or Battles V2, where we could see SLP going to. And that 6 to 8 cents price range is kind of where I personally am looking at, and I've talked before about some price predictions in another video, so feel free to check that out. But this is kind of roughly where I see it going. So let's say you bought teams at $750 a team. You're reinvesting again just at the start of every month. At the end here, you're going to be at 69 teams at the end of a year. So you're definitely growing the number of teams you have dramatically. I mean, you're still starting at 10, so it's huge. Your total value at the end of the year would be about $36,700 roughly. Again, you still only invested $7,500, so your ROI on the year is coming up on 400%, which is just insane numbers to be thinking about. And this does require compounding. I'll show you guys here in a minute what happens if you don't compound and what that looks like. Finally, if we look at, just SLP goes to the moon, it goes to 10 cents, right? It just goes ham. You're able to just buy so many teams as price keeps going on. I mean, in this column right here talks about how much you're collecting on a weekly basis. So week 14, you're collecting $1,000. We come down here. Week 30, you're $2,700 a week. I mean, it's just insane revenue that you'd be getting out of this. So again, let's just scroll down. You'd be ending at 220 teams when you started at, again, you still started at 10. So it definitely expedites the compounding process to where now you're 222 teams. And just to show you guys, this formula is the same as the other ones, the other sheets, where you're taking the value of a team times 70% times the number of teams. And then if we go back up here, right here, you're adding the value of all the teams plus the leftover SLP value that you haven't spent on new teams. Exact same formula. Now you're looking at 1,500% ROI almost on the year. So this would be a very bullish case. I think this one's a little bit unrealistic in the sense that you basically have to buy all your teams right now, and then SLP would just have to moon tomorrow. So not totally likely. I don't see SLP going anywhere for at least a month, but maybe in 2 months you could see SLP at 10 cents. So, as SLP price increases, your team cost is going to increase. So there's some of those kind of things that you also need to be aware of and account for as you're going forward. But let's compare this SLP at 3.5 cents, and I'll actually get you a side-by-side here. There we go. Now you guys can kind of see that. Okay. On the right here, this right sheet is if you didn't compound. So this is simply, there we go, we'll just adjust that. This is simply you buy 10 teams, okay, you're buying 10 teams over here, and you're not reinvesting. You're just taking the value out in SLP every single week, okay? What this does is it shows you guys, let me actually adjust this just a tiny bit. There we go. Okay, you guys can see here, ignore this column. This was something else I put together, but I need to remove that. But your total collected and total value. So this is all the dollar amount of SLP you're collecting, and this is total value. So this is taking the original team value, the 10 teams, times that 70% value, because again, remember, you're going to be losing about 30% value on your teams over time. And I've been in this since July, so about 5 months, and that's roughly what I've been seeing consistently. So that's just my observation. Plus, then you're going to add into the total amount that you've collected, the total amount that you've cashed out, basically. And at the end here, you end up at 96% annual ROI. Compare that to over here, and again, both these are SLP at 3.5 cents. Comparing that over here, though, you're at 127. So compounding definitely does help, and you might be saying, okay, well, it's roughly a 30% difference. But here's the really key thing I want to point out is this is only showing in a year. Let's say you continued. So if you compounded at the end of that year going forward, let's just say you stopped after a year. Now every single week you'd be getting $550 worth of SLP. If you didn't compound at the end of a year, you're still only getting $183 a week going forward. So this one on the left, when you compound, if you just stopped after a year, you're going to be getting, I mean, that's almost 2.5 times the dollar amount of SLP worth going forward from that point on. So if you plan on being into Axie for a couple of years, in my opinion, it makes, and this is what I personally am doing, guys. So you guys have to run this analysis yourself. You have to make your own decisions at the end of the day as to what you want to do. But personally, when I see this, I see, yeah, you get a little bit higher ROI. And yeah, you're going to have more work adding more teams on, all that kind of stuff, you know, the 125% versus 96. But the big one for me is that at the end of the year, because I believe in Axie long term, I think Axie is going to be around for years. I don't know how big it's going to be for years, but I think it's going to be around and relevant to some degree for years. After a year, the difference here is going forward, if I decide to stop compounding at a year, I'd be getting $550 every single week compared to over here only getting $183. So I think that's really a key difference here is while the ROIs might not seem that dramatically different, when you start showing it and you, let's say we showed this over 2 years, the difference would be a lot bigger, a lot more noticeable. So it really depends on your time frame, what you're wanting to do. And this is what I'm personally doing is I'm compounding. So I've yet to take $1 out. I put some money and gone into some different stuff. I'm looking to buy some land, some of that kind of stuff, but it's all staying within Axie to try and reinvest and keep going forward. And that's really my main goal here is to try and do that. And I think that this is why is the ROI is better, one, but two, you're going to be getting more on a weekly basis as you go forward. So that's my analysis of it. This is kind of again, this is a lot more detailed than what other sheets give you. You could also do, if you wanted to increase these compounding numbers, if you compounded every other week. So, you know, Axie lets you cash out twice a month, every 2 weeks. If you compounded then, and you had more teams, SLP price was higher, that kind of stuff, this ROI number would increase even more because you'd get more compounding effect out of it. So there's definitely ways you could increase this, you could change these numbers, you can manipulate it, but I felt this is the best, easy way to present it to you guys. So hopefully you found some value in this. If you did, feel free to join my Discord down below. I'm going to be starting to look into providing some more information and content to Axie Scholar managers. So hoping to build out communities, stuff like that, so we can collaborate, all those good things. So anyways, guys, feel free to join my Discord down below, follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you all in the next one.